It's fine. Well, welcome to part 3, Sam. It's good to have your testimony talking about this.
Okay.
But we're going to concentrate on your so-called alien experiences, and we'll be doing a little implant scan, because you have got one of those meters and very few people have. That's the Zap Checker.
Right.
Which is a bit of a short abbreviation for an RF meter.
Yeah.
In the ranges
Radiant
which
free.
Matt Todd scanned Dave Marrow's back and found a lot of signals off the scale from him.
Right.
And I was given one about a year ago, and you have one.
I do. Yeah. I'm going to be using it in the healing process, so I can actually determine where people's implants are and concentrate on those centres.
How do you do that? Because the only other person I've known who can tune in like that is Miriam Yance.
Well, it gives you instructions on how to do it.
Well, no, you're using the meter to do that, but are you doing it esoterically with, to track the implant that way?
No, but I pretty much know where the implants are.
Now, how do you know that?
I can feel them.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, being a sensitive, I can feel them in the body.
But what do you feel when you do this? I mean, and how do you know if they're alien or they're being put there by
now that I can't,
the so-called secret government?
Yeah, because
this is very important, because the organisations which have set up to deal with covert harassment, UCASH and Stop Egg and organisations like that, and World Cash, they don't want to know any of this alien crap.
Right.
They just don't want to hear alien stuff. It's bad enough they're suffering it in the first place.
Right.
So, I mean, this is a big dividing line.
Yeah.
And you've got the alien implant people, who're being taken by aliens, or the MyLab people.
Right. Okay.
So, how do you stand on that?
Well, I do feel that I have been abducted several times, quite a lot actually, but it wasn't just alien abduction. It was black ops. Now
people would call that a MyLab, a military abduction.
Yeah, pretty much, because they were around a lot as well. When psychic attacks were happening, they were always around, working. From what I gather, they work alongside these aliens to keep control of the matrix, if you like, the illusionary matrix, so that people who are outside the box are sometimes noticed and kept an eye on. And I think that's a bit what happened to me. But I had to do all my research into this. It wasn't, I didn't at the time. It was just so intense. But I knew I was...
Tell us all about it. Just relax. Tell us what happened to you.
Well, I was basically staying at my sister's because it was so intense, and I had a few nervous breakdowns, or very close to. And it was happening during the day, but every night it was constant. Yeah, it was happening so frequently that nobody... I sensed it was alien activity. And my sister, who's psychic, also said to me, they're not from this part of the universe. And I said, I know. So we both kind of corresponded with each other on that one. We both agreed that what's happening to you is not these attacks are being done by beings not from this universe, and they're not being very nice, to be honest.
Can you give us any details of what they are, what their agenda is, anything at all?
Well, I can only give personal.
Yeah.
I can only give personal at this time.
Yes, that's what we want to hear. Your
personal experience, but they seem to be. Well, they didn't seem to be. They actually did try and attempt to take my soul essence out of my body, and my sister wasn't around at the time, and it happened every time she went out, so they must have known when she was out, and it happened as me turning white as a sheet, and my energies from the feet down it was being drawn up out of my body. I actually felt I was going to pass out or die or something. I phoned a friend of mine, and they didn't know what to do. They'd never heard of it before, this experience. I don't think anybody had had it, and not anybody I knew anyway. I was told to jump in the bath.
Salty.
A cold bath, not salty, just a cold bath. Nobody knew what to do, so they said jump in the bath.
There's a reason for that, because it can electrically discharge any kind of electrical force field that's got access to you.
Right.
It's one way of grounding.
Yeah, but in a cold bath.
Well, it just shocks your whole system.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So I jumped in the bath, submerged myself, and it allayed it.
It did work.
But for a short period of time, because it was happening on a nightly basis. So imagine running a bath at 2 o'clock in the morning, a cold bath, and my poor sister saying, what are you doing? I jumped in the bath with all my clothes on. I didn't wait to, because it was happening so fast. I thought, I'm going to be taken out. I'm starting not to feel my legs, my body. Legs felt like blocks of wood, and it started to creep up. So I was actually, it felt a bit like what Alex was talking about when he said they have this thing, and they watch these souls, I think it was the Greys. They're not.
You're talking about one of the base's witnesses.
Yeah, Alex. Is it Alex?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, and he mentioned something about a tube that they use, and they suck out the soul essence to I don't know, to mix with other eggs, and that's exactly how it felt like. So I thought, well, he knows what he's talking about, because that's exactly how it felt like, being sucked, soul being sucked out the body. And the guy that was helping at the time, his girlfriend went through similar thing, and that's when he rang me as well, because he also had things going on. At one point he said, it's World War III out there. I said, I know exactly what you're talking about. He said, there's police, helicopters, the whole shebang. He said, what's going on? I said, I really don't know, but I know they're linked to it, because I was still learning myself then. So I said, they must be linked to this in some way. And he said, they're all outside, and the helicopters and the police. And now the police are on some frequency band that some of them know what's going on. And it's all linked in. It is all part of the matrix illusion, and maintaining that illusion. And also, I think it's genetics as well, because I come from a very mixed genetic family, and I think that's what they were interested in as well. So aside from that, there was on this hand, if you look at that finger, I don't know if people can see that. Now look at that hand. That finger on the left, is much shorter than the right. And one day, it was about a couple of months into it, I woke up and this hand and this finger, the whole hand, it still hurts now because there's parts of it obviously missing. And I felt like it'd been chopped off, or they've taken a slice of it. And I woke up with this intense pain shooting right up my hand. And I kept looking at it thinking it looks different somehow, but I didn't quite notice it was shorter until one day I looked at the other one. I realised it's shorter. This finger is actually shorter than the other one. Now that should show up on an X-ray, but they told me there was nothing wrong. But when I rang them up to discuss it with the radiologist, the girl said she doesn't want to speak to you. And I thought, well, it says on the letter that they give you that if you wish to speak to the radiologist, ring this number. So why do they? She said, I don't know, but they said they don't want to speak to you. So I just felt that was a very strange thing to say, you know. And there's brain scans that I had. Also, because I was checking for implants in the brain, and I went for a couple of brain scans. And the first one, which you've got copies of that, the first one I did see, it looked like anomalies, these white round blobs in certain parts of the head, and it actually looked like my skull had been slightly cracked or something on the left side, because there was a piece it just looked odd. There was a bit of a gap there, as if maybe they'd come in that way. Now, I don't know whether that was the military or the Black Ops or the aliens. At this point, there was so much happening that I couldn't always tell. But it was, I know it was alien as well, because they worked together, hand in glove. So, and they have that technology also to do that. So it wasn't just the aliens, it was the I was going to say the MRI, my lab people, you know, getting in there. And I did scoop marks, things like that. You know, I noticed things on my body. I was full of bruises when it first started happening. I was absolutely full of bruises. I must have fought tooth and nail, because my teeth started chipping. My body was absolutely full. I had to wake up and there'd be bruises all over the place, like I'd been fighting, you know. I did hear, I heard, I've forgotten his name now, Jay Essex, saying that to James Rink. He said, well, I haven't got any bruises on my body. And he's another alien. He's actually from the super soldiers, so he's worked in there. But he said he'd been taken places and abducted. He said, but I have no bruises or anything. And he said that's because you didn't fight. You didn't fight. The ones that fight get the bruises, you know. So I thought, all right, thank you very much. I must have really fought that.
Well, good on you.
Well, you had no choice, because, you know, to just come in without your consent.
Yeah, the bastards.
And take what they want, you know. Take parts of you, take genes.
It's not good manners.
No. That's why I think it was Rogue, the one. I know they have rules that they should follow, but in this case there was no rules. There was absolutely no rules. These beings were just coming in and helping themselves, along with the military. It's as if said, right, that one, we'll have that one, and take bits and bobs. I was scoop marks, black marks, cuts, little cuts on the body, bruises everywhere. turned white as a sheet. I was barely surviving. I don't know how I fought because I was barely surviving. But I think the rules sometimes go out the window, and that's why I described them in a previous interview with Joanne as masters of deception. And they are masters of deception, but these were rogue. They weren't ones that asked permission, they were ones that took what they wanted and that was it, no discussion. So I think for people who say, oh, well, they agreed to it. No, I'm sorry. I was doing fine and dandy. I was on my way with the healing. I was starting to do workshops, things like that. There was it just happened. And I couldn't control it. And that was the worst part of it, not feeling in control, that I could stop them.
What did the sort of aliens look like? Any?
Well, the one I described yesterday with the horns, and I felt there were greys because sometimes I saw these beings and they would just dart across the room very fast.
Yeah.
So if you blink, you'll miss them, and they sometimes they were outside my window, so they were hovering outside the window and I could see them, but as soon as I looked at them they disappeared, and they'd come somewhere else. I think.
What did they look like? Do you have any face? What features?
Well, they were like a silhouette of the greys, because they didn't look like in solid form. They looked floaty and like they could go in and out of dimension, so they could actually.
Big eyes, features, grey, green, blue, yellow.
No, just white, as I remember them, very white, with big eyes, quite big eyes, but I couldn't, because they were always behind the window and they moved so fast, I couldn't get to see if they were wraparound eyes, the round eyes, big, the military ones that were created by the military, artificial intelligence. It wasn't clear. They were very quick, very fast. That was annoying because I wanted to grab hold and say, "What are you doing? Leave me alone!" But I could, you can't, because it can actually disappear into the astral, and manifest and demanifest, all that kind of thing, which was hard to deal with at the time. I do want to talk about a recent experience. All that was happening, but apart from that, there was the black magic still carrying on, so that was still happening.
We've got aliens, black magic, military.
Yeah, it felt like that. It was structured upwards, and the ones that, the ones that actually wanted to kind of take me out. I remember one night I woke up at 2-3 in the morning, and that's when they came, and I said, "Leave me alone. What do you want? I don't want any of this. I don't want none of it." I said, "You'll never take me out. I'm staying here." It felt like a war going on outside the window. Suddenly there was thunder, lightning, all sorts of things going on. Noises in the room, creaking, cracking. It felt like fighting World War III on a different dimension, but you're on your own with it, and I couldn't explain it. One sister sort of got the gist of it because she's psychic anyway, but I think my other sister found it hard to believe and said it's all in your head. And I said, "Well, what are these marks? What are these?" That's not in my head. That's actually happening. And it's difficult for people to accept that that kind of thing exists.
Yeah, well, I think that's quite natural.
you know.
And
yeah.
This is the problem. We have an onus to try and
identify.
somehow, get the information from prove it.
But that's all part of how the Matrix operates. And the message I want to get across to people is reality management, which we talked about yesterday, and alien abductions do go on. Sometimes it's not all bad. It's not all bad. You do get those helping, but this was a case of it was too big, too much going on, and I don't think they could deal with the other stuff as well. So I felt like I was getting help, but they could only go so far. Right, well, I want to wrap things up a bit. I'm moving on to another stage that happened recently, and it's kind of connected with what Gabe Cruz, the guy you interviewed.
Now, he started talking about quite a lot of stuff. He talked about some kind of AI, insect intelligence or what?
Not insect intelligence, but there was a lot of... when he was talking about his skull being bombarded and the energies, I had something similar, but then it changed to something else.
Okay, well,
that stopped.
Tell us all about it.
It's more tied into Renetta's story, Renetta's account. Now, I remember, because they have boots on the ground, so to speak, I don't like that term, but the NSA actually have records of people who've been abducted. They also are in the reality management matrix, and I felt like I was being monitored constantly, and that even if that meant a man sitting in a car watching me come in and out the flat. Now this is strange, because the girl who lives in the flats, she's a little bit into what I'm into, and she...
Who's this girl?
I don't want to mention her name.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, she wouldn't. She wouldn't.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah. She said a few times that there was a car that came that she noticed was coming quite often and watching the flats. And she said, it might be watching you, it might be watching me. She said, I just thought I'd let you know that. And she said it's two men, and they're in the car, but they're always there watching the flat. I thought, it's just another part of the monitoring process, because once you have implants, you can be followed and tracked. They're like devices that they can tune into. Now the NSA and the Black Ops do have the technology to do this, because the Black Ops do have alien technology as well. So
how can you say that? On what basis can you say?
Well, I did read up on a lot of this. I mean, I had to do a lot of my own research, but it made sense to me. And after a while, you begin to click. It's like everything clicked into place, and I thought, okay, so it's all connected right down from the third dimension to the fourth dimension, and they're all working together. So you've got the aliens working with the Black Ops, the NSA connected to that as well, and the NSA have some of the facilities that can monitor people. I mean, it's connected with GCHQ, Cheltenham. There's what they do is they pass on information. I'll send you this because it's quite in depth. They pass on information to the GCHQ. Yeah, I always get it wrong. And so you've got all that contraption monitoring, you know. And I'm sorry, but I got really annoyed with them. I did. I got very annoyed. And I said, this is all going to come out, you know. It's all going to come out. It all has to be exposed. Because as we move through the dimensions, it's going to come out anyway. So if you don't kind of watch yourselves, you are going to get caught up in this in a big way, you know.
Well, Bill Newhouse told me a long time ago that they want the leaks. They want the information out there. That's
Do they?
20 years ago.
Right.
But like anything else, one you've always got a change of management, a change of
If they're wanting to get information out, it's like Obama as president. He wanted to get things out. I had quite a few dreams. He was trying to get this stuff out, but reality management.
Well,
again,
the president of the United States
can only say so much.
Who's only there for a few weeks.
Yeah, and he's very.
Doesn't have much
I think
power.
he's very happy about that, and I'm happy for him. He will be out of it because it's you know, he's been monitored left, right, and centre. I think people generally are being monitored. A lot of the population now.
Well, who's doing this monitoring? Where is it all leading to? I mean, how is it done? I mean, it's a heck of a lot of information.
Well, it's NSA linked with the Cheltenham thing, and they linked to some other facility. I tell you, the Hilton Hotel in Manchester, I don't get a good feeling from that every time I go past it.
Are you trying to infer that there are
I think there's a
in the city centre of Manchester underground, and they're doing some kind of...
Yeah, I was listening to...
Nice Radio?
No. He's in prison now. James Casbolt.
Yeah.
And I said to people at that time that they're in the Hilton Hotel. They're doing something in there. They're using for it, and the two red eyes, I call them red eyes, at the top of the building, were some sort of gateway that the UFOs came in.
Talking about the Manchester city centre.
Yeah.
Hilton Hotel.
On Deansgate, bottom of Deansgate.
Yeah.
And I felt like they were using that as a kind of gateway to come in.
There's a number of strange buildings with strange architecture which appears to have passive scalar energetic.
Right.
There's one building sort of slightly lopsided as it goes up.
Yes.
And it has a whole array at the top of it.
Right.
I think near Deansgate.
Yeah. Is that the one? Have you seen the Hilton?
It's like a grill at the very top.
Yeah.
And
that's
the way it's lined up.
That's the Hilton.
Relationship with certain other buildings.
Yeah.
I mean, that's only my suspicion. I can't.
Well, that's what I picked up psychically.
And
that's
it
what
does have a huge underground tunnel network.
Right. Well, that would explain a lot. Somebody said, I think a friend of mine said they were having a UFO party or something in there, and people were going to this. It was on the upper floors, but they had a massive big UFO, and they were having a party. And they had this structure of a UFO blasting out all the lights as a like you would have a lighting in a disco.
Yeah.
Like that. So I said, well, that makes sense to me.
That's obviously a party. It's obviously in plain sight. It's not a real UFO.
Yeah,
or
well,
are you saying maybe it was?
No, I'm saying they're putting it in. It's in plain sight. They're putting it out there. They have that way of kind of showing you, but if you don't look for it, if you're not perceptive enough or you don't tune in, you're not going to see it, you know. I think they did want me to see a lot of things. They started it, but that came later on, because before it was just total bombardment from different energies there. But recently what happened was I'm quite a calm person because I do a lot of meditation, but I got really annoyed because what they also do is you get these phone calls and, you know, and it's people trying to either sell you stuff or PPI, even though you tell them not to. They're still arguing with you on the phone. And you're saying no.
The way to deal with that is just put the phone beside the receiver and don't hang up, just leave it there.
Yeah, and leave them. Well, they can waste their. I said, you're wasting your time. I'm not interested. Goodbye. But there's a lot of monitoring going on, I feel, and it does happen with the implants because then they know where you are and what you're doing.
Now you
and I really care anymore. I've got like Gabe. I really don't care anymore. You know, I've got to the point where I've had enough. I'm speaking out about it. I don't care what you do. You know, I know you're watching, but it doesn't matter. Which telepathically they know that you can communicate with them telepathically, and tell them.
Well, this is something that Solaris Blue Raven.
Yeah.
And she fought back, and actually we've just put up the Christine Joanna Hart.
Yeah.
Literally yesterday.
Right.
Had a heck of a blast at the trolls on the internet. She's going to take full scale war on the trolls. Yeah.
Well, they do need taking, but I at the same time don't get so wrapped up in it that you get lost in it. You've got to be very careful with this, because sometimes it's like a trap that draws you in, and you get so wrapped in it, you get lost in the whole thing.
Yes.
In the maze. I mean, it's happened to me a few times. That's what I'm talking from experience, because obviously you learn these things as you go along. But recently I got really annoyed, especially when my neighbour said something about they're watching the building, and I said,
well, do you know what you do when you see them watching the building? Just go right up to them and take a photograph of them.
Yeah, well, she
same with cars.
She took the car number down.
Yeah.
And she said it's the same one.
You
reported the same
to
one.
The police.
Right. Well, some of the police, I don't know. Some of the police are involved, so they don't.
No, that's one way of you letting them know that we're watching you. You watch back.
Yeah.
You you face them down. You watch them back.
Yeah.
And when they look at you, you go right up to them and you photograph them and you tell them we're watching you.
Well, she got a bit frightened because
don't be frightened.
she actually said while she was taking down the number, they started watching her. Yeah. So she left it at that.
These people depend on you being afraid, and they depend on you running from them.
Yeah.
What you do is you stand still and you face them down. If you're being followed, stop the car and walk straight into the person that's following you. Yeah. So they know that they are being run. We're after them now.
Yeah. And it happened a few times where I felt I was being watched or monitored.
As soon as they open up a link, looking at you, you can look back at them.
I did.
Now, how did you do that? And tell people how you can do that.
I saw. Now I'm not 100% whether he was monitoring me, but I saw. This man doing his gardening, but he was doing his gardening, raking it and looking at me, but looking straight at me, and I thought, what's he doing? So I thought, if you're raking your garden, then you'd be looking down to see what you're doing. You're not. He looks so out of place, so I just looked straight at him. I just stared at him as if, what are you doing? You know, and he looked down straight away, and I sat in the car and I waited to see what he would do, and he came out the gate of the house, but I didn't even feel like he was connected to that house. I thought, who is this guy? Came out the house. He looked like he was panicking a bit because he walked one way, the opposite way to the car, and I watched him. And then he turned round and he walked back up again, as if he didn't know where to go, because he must have seen me watching him, and I watched him all the way. wherever he went, my eyes followed him. So he clicked that I'd been watching him. It was very strange because I thought, well, you're making it a bit obvious, There was another incident where I went to a petrol station and a girl passed me, but as she passed me, she looked straight at me. So I thought, do I know that girl? And so I kind of looked back, but when I looked back, she'd gone. But the thing is, she hadn't gone. She'd gone round the corner to a car as if it was her car. I don't know if it was. Then she came back out again, and she as if she was waiting for me to come out the petrol station. And she looked straight at me, as if she wanted me to know that she was watching. So I faced her and I looked straight at her, and I looked straight in her eyes, as if to say, oh yeah, what have you got to say to me? Who are you and what have you got to say? Are you monitoring me? And she looked, and it's as if we were having a staring competition. And I thought, well, I'm not going to look away. Why are you looking at me like that? And she looked, and she kind of turned and went round the corner again. And then she went back in the shop door as I got in the car, and I thought, oh, she's not going yet. And she looked like she was doing something with a phone or something like that, and she didn't go in the shop. That's the thing. She just stood in the doorway with the phone. At that point I drove off, and I said, okay, that's enough of that. So I drove off. That's the few I've had recently.
Yeah.
Now what's happened more recently?
Recently, what are you saying? This year, 2016 or what?
2015. This will have been the back end of about May last year, May, June. I was having one of those days where you just had enough, and like Gabe, I was, get out of here, leave me alone. And that night, a triangular, that's what I felt it was. I hadn't seen it, but I felt it was triangular, came over the building, and they hit me with something in it was like the head, like something was going in there. So, and it was still hovering above the flat.
Right.
I could hear it, because I can hear them. I can hear them.
What do you mean you can hear them?
It sounds like a low-flying plane. That's exactly so. To anybody who doesn't know about these things, it would be perfectly normal. Perhaps it was a low-flying plane. Well, I've heard it a bit once too often, so I know I'm beginning to recognise.
Are you talking about a jet or a propeller plane or what?
No, I think it's Black Ops, the Black Ops crafts, the abduction crafts, the triangular, yeah, something like that. That's what came into my head. I woke up. I thought, what? They're doing something to my head. I woke up. I shut up, and I heard clearly in my brain,
yeah,
somebody talking on a radio, like like they were giving. It's a bit like flying a plane.
It's good fun because the camera that's over there is way out of focus again. It means it's focusing on something else.
Oh,
anyway,
right. Oh, God.
He's focusing on an energy field much closer, which is probably yours.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
I do feel it when I'm talking about it, and this is it with experiences when they talk about it. That it does. You've got to break through that. You've just got to say, right, that's it. I'm going to talk about it. I
mean, this camera. I'm not going to interrupt the recording again, but I mean, this camera here is on manual focus.
Right.
And it shifted its focus from me down to something which is beside you.
Ah, right. I can feel something here. On this, on this side. Right, so the radio, somebody talking on a radio, and it was English, they weren't American. And as soon as I shut up and I heard the voice, it's like, oh, she's awake, and it went blip out like
when
that.
You said you heard the voice, what language or what accent?
It was a British accent, like some sort of monitoring device, and it just went blip out, like somebody switching off. She's clocked. She's awake, because they were doing something while I was asleep, but I must have woke up in the middle of it and realised and heard the radio. You could hear the voice clearly inside your head.
So that's what's called V2K, voice to skull.
Yeah, and that's what they were using. So it was about 3 in the morning.
Well, it's telepathic as well. I mean, I've heard a mutual friend of ours, clear as day in my head.
Yeah. Well, it's voice to skull technology, but they didn't want me to know that what they were doing, obviously, because as soon as I woke up, they must have, she tuned in, switch off.
Well, that means that you must have qualities which can outwit their intention.
On that occasion I did. It wasn't that easy in the beginning. There was too much happening, basically. But they came back every night for about 3 weeks, constantly hovering above the building. I could hear them.
But did you ever manage to see what vehicle they had?
I did look, but they have the technology they're using can jump in and out of dimensions, and it was very close to the building. I was worried other people were going to hear it as well. In fact, an older guy that lived downstairs said, "Did you hear that noise outside the building yesterday?" And I said, "What noise?" And he said, "Oh, it was like a loud noise." And he's described it as like a washing machine or something, whereas I wouldn't have described it as that. To me, it sounded like a low-flying plane. It's not on top of the building. It's a bit of a distance away, but it stays there. Yeah. Planes don't stay there. This stays there. So it happened for about 3 weeks, and then I kind of said to them, "Oh, well, you think this is going to stop me from talking about this? Because I am going to talk about it at some point." So, and one night they came back again, and I was asleep, but they put something in my chest, because I actually woke up with a pain in my chest, and my heart was flapping all over the place. I thought I was going to have a heart attack, and I thought, and it felt like this cold stuff that they were putting in that was spreading across my chest. So I thought, God, that's weird. And I asked my guides, and I just said, "Help me, because I think they're trying to get rid of me. I think they're trying to kill me." And then suddenly I shouted for help, and it was there. It went.
So
the noise went. they went, and they might be back, I don't know, but they disappeared. Because what I've seen also is a lot of UFOs during this time.
What type of UFOs?
The little disc ones that dart about, and they're the greys. I know that they're the greys now, the ones that dart about all over the place like that. And I focused on it, and I practically tried to say, go back to the light. Wherever you're from, go back to the light. And the little light darted all over the sky as if it didn't know where to go. And I said, I can see you, so can you please go away? And it was darting all over the place. I mean, I said a little prayer, and I said, you best be on your way, you know. It's as if they don't like to be watched. They like to watch you, but they don't like to know that you've noticed them. Other occasions, there were other UFOs with multicoloured lights, red, green, blue, and they were hovering in the sky. And one night I saw one of the silver disc ones, so I went to my bedroom window. It's got a little alcove where you can sit in, and I took a pair of binoculars and I watched the skies, and it was full of UFOs, all types, not just the silver ones, the grey ones. It was the multicoloured ones. And I said, because I believe in the Galactic Federation of Light, I believe that they are assisting.
Well, I think that's a lot of New Age hooey, but just hold it a second, we'll just do that other...
I'll tell you what happened.
No, hold a second.
No, they're definitely... Those videos, the DVDs I've sent you.
Which?
The DVDs that I've given there. If you look at some of those, you'll see. But it's not just that. I know they're there because they did communicate that they were watching. And I communicated with them. Now, the one I was watching moved.
Okay, I just slagged off the Galactic Federation of Light there.
Oh, right.
So I just think that's a lot of New Age
Well,
stuff.
I believe in the Galactic Federation of Light. I mean...
What makes you think that's real?
Well, they did actually communicate at one occasion and say, we are here, we are here.
And how did that work? How did that convince you, as opposed to being a voice to skull thing? Whatever.
No, it was different. It was completely different. It was outside the skull. It wasn't voice to skull.
Okay. Okay, we got the last 10 minutes.
Right.
You've got to get a train.
Yeah.
So let's focus on bang, bang, bang. What do you want to get across? What's your absolute most important thing you want to get across these last couple of minutes?
We are in a world of duality. It exists on up to the fourth dimension. There are beings that have been in control for thousands upon thousands of years. And you'll find many battles that were fought with the aliens. Now there's different types, like different types of people on Earth. You've got the good ones, the bad ones, and the ones that are in the middle somewhere that don't want to get involved. Now that includes the Galactic Federation of Light and the Divine Ashtar Command. I always refer to them as divine. Then you know they're divine. They're not. Because this is a very deceptive game they're playing, and they would like you to believe otherwise. So I always make sure I emphasise the Divine Galactic Federation of the Light and the Divine Ashtar Command, along with the Divine Angels. Now, when I focused on this particular one, multicoloured lights coming out of it, I put the binoculars firmly fixed to it, and there was a few others as well. And I said, "Oh, there you are. Okay, I can see you now. I'm at the window. I'm looking through the binoculars." And it started to move, and the part of the sky it moved to looked a bit like these colours here, like rainbow colours, started to move towards it. And just before it left, I said, "I can see you, I'm watching you." The lights, it flooded out these rainbow coloured lights as if to say, "Yeah, we know, we were keeping an eye on you." And it went towards this, I can only describe it as a portal in the sky, because it disappeared into it.
Right.
And then it was gone. And that's more or less when I knew. I saw quite a lot of it. I'm not just talking about that incident. I've seen UFOs everywhere, you know. And I asked one of them, I check, you can check with them, are you the good guys or you know. And one particular one kept coming to my window, outside my window. I've got big bay windows, you can look straight out, and I was there with the binoculars, and I asked, "Are you from the Divine Galactic Federation of Light? Can you move up and down for yes, or side to side for no?" And it moved up and down, and I watched it move up and down. I said, "You need to give me a sign, because I need to know who's watching. If you're watching me, then, you know," I said, "Are you looking after me? Are you looking out for me? Are you looking after me?" And again it moved up and down, and it really showed me that it was moving up. It wasn't just a little, it was up and closer, came a bit closer and down. And I thought, at first I thought, it's coming here. You know? I thought, oh my God, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. But I do feel they're both out there. There's a bit of a battle going on out there in the fourth dimension, because these fourth dimensional entities and aliens who've been in control for thousands of millennia, since the beginning of time, they feel that this is their planet and they want to keep it that way. And then you've got the Galactic Federation saying no. And I said to them,
moving out and you
yeah,
coming in,
and you lot coming in, yeah. And I communicated to the Galactic Federation. I said, "Where were you when I called for you a few times and I didn't feel," and they didn't really answer me. But a few days later I read on a blog that can't remember where I saw this, but it clicked with me. It was more or less saying some of these beings have overstepped the mark. They've overstepped it. And I literally said, "Yes, I know," because I was the centre of that. I said there was no, I was just putting on at the deep end. Where were you? I needed your support. And they more or less let me know that they're there all the time. So they're in the skies all the time. I even showed my sister one. I did the same thing with her. But I think a little bit, she's still a little bit kind of, I mean, it could be a no. I said they're there all the time. So you need to know that the support is out there and you've got to ask for it. You don't ask for it, they don't come, you know. So it's a matter of belief. If you don't believe that, then you might have a difficult time them coming. But I know you're supported, Miles. I do know you. I think we're all supported, because I've been doing this for a long time, calling them in, because I realised the scale of it, and it was too. You can become paralysed. with the enormity of it. And I thought, I can't do that, else they've won. I've got to keep going with this and call them in. And people have said they've seen all sorts of UFOs, haven't they?
Yeah.
You know, and they are the good ones, you know. So it's not all bad. There's good, you know. And there is a rebalancing going on. And now the dark side has been weakened. I'm not saying they're totally gone yet, but they have been weakened by the Galactic Federation, who realised what was going on. And they have intervened.
That's almost out of time.
Right.
It's been fascinating. It's really wonderful that you've come such a great distance.
Well, if people know there's support out there, I didn't have that at that time when it was first happening. I just didn't have the support, and I thought, well, I've got to do this myself, and I don't even know how to navigate. You know, it's like sticking you in a car and say drive that, and you've never driven before. You know, so I thought, well, if I can learn by it, maybe I can help other people to deal with it better.
Yeah.
You know, so that they know. Because if people feel lost, as I did at the time, and feel like the proverbial rug's been
now, briefly, you were literally in the last minute or two. You said you got MRI scans. I mean, how do you get MRI scans? Do you
It's difficult, but there's an angel in that hospital that I went to, and she's called Samantha, funnily enough, and she did all the scans for me. Every time I came in, she did the scans for me, and there seemed to be a bit of there's a resistance to letting you having the scans.
Oh yeah.
But she did, every time I went in, she did the scans. She said, I'll do it for you, Yasmin, don't worry. For Samantha. But she had some resistance from upper peers. Now I've heard recently that she wanted to leave.
We're going to have to just hold on up. We really are right out of time.
Yeah, right.
And we've got to really start to get going.
Getting ready.
So really, Sam, thank you so much for coming down and doing
You're
this
welcome.
message. You've thought it well. You've really thought it out. You're presenting it really well.
Yeah.
And,
it's like trying to remember all the bits, you know.
Yeah.
But I just feel I'm watched, but I'm protected at the same time.
Are you a Facebook person, or are you something that people can get hold of?
No, I'm afraid I'm not.
Okay.
I'm afraid I'm not. And I've heard so much bad press about Facebook and Twitter and all the rest of them, but I think it is a monitoring.
But if somebody wanted to get hold of you or discuss something literally in the last 20 seconds. Okay, this is Basis Witness. Thank you very much indeed. If you want to have your story and you want to put it out in detail, do contact me at the Basis Project, miles at thebasisproject.org. Thank you very much indeed, Sam, for coming all the way down from Manchester. I'm out of time, I'm out of tape,
You're very welcome.
Media.
I'm glad I've done it.
And let's have a cup of coffee. And
have we got time?
We've got a cup of coffee first.
Oh right, right, okay.
But that's it. Good night and God bless. And the camera hopefully still in focus. We'll have to adjust it again.
Right.
Thank you.
God bless. Yeah. The help is there.
Good.